let me take you back real quick. It's February 2008, and you're a kid who's really into superhero media because your parents have been feeding it to you since you were conceived. We have the classics, Superman and Batman, some Cartoon Network here and there, Ben 10, my goat, but your all-time favorite was the superhero family that was acting under the supervision of the NSA in secret to keep the city safe. In this film, you find out that supers are run into hiding, forced to take up their secret identity as their only identity. You either join us or go away. You know how the bit goes. 10 years later, you decide to watch this movie back as an adult, and you think to yourself, oh, it's Mr. Incredible's fault. He tipped the scales so much with his collateral damage rates to the point of no return. He did this to the supers. Well, about that. But you remember the most memorable thing about this movie was discovering that all of the supers of that age were killed off in experimenting and researching for a specific android to kill Mr. Incredible. Fast forward another 3 years later, you think to yourself, what were these heroes like? Why did it take so much trial and effort for Syndrome to get these heroes dealt with before they finally settled on the perfect android? And more importantly, you were thinking to yourself, what were these heroes like before they got terminated? What if I told you Syndrome was onto something? What if I told you that the real villain wasn't the boy wonder? It was the heroes he looked up to that were the true villains of the universe. But how do I know this? The NSA has audio recordings of each individual heroes that was under their wing. And in those recordings, we discover the dark truth behind these so-called superheroes. And that's what we're going to be talking about. In today's Cult Meeting, we are going to be diving headfirst into the NSA Files, breaking down the most disturbing audio file recordings, and prove once and for all that people who gain superpowers or people who are born with superpowers cannot be heroes unless a specific condition is met. The files start off how you'd expect it to be with Apogee. Listening to it, they sound much more like a disgruntled coworker than a teammate in a superhero team.
Do we have to talk about the Thrilling Three? Yes, I was part of that group, and it was well-intentioned, a bit misguided. You know, let's face it, it wasn't really the Thrilling Three. It was really the Thrilling One plus two in Gazerbeam's mind. It was less than thrilling. Less than thrilling, that's good. Well, let's see, I started out in Arizona and then migrated over to Los Angeles, which was great. I had a great long run there. A lot of work to be done. A lot of superheroes see Los Angeles as kind of a launching ground, and to be honest with you, I didn't have a lot of places to launch to from there. The solar-powered thing, you know, it's good for the environment, but it's not so good for me. It limits my ability, it limits my work hours. It makes me look like an idiot if something happens at night. You know, really, it's really hard when it's nighttime for me because I'm a rather social person. I like to dance, I like to go out to dinner, and if something horrible happens, my power's not going on because the sun's not out, and so it can be frustrating at times. Unless evil breaks out at a tanning salon, I'm done for.
Looking at the files, we see each of their powers displayed on each hero. Right under that, we see what their personalities are like, both as an individual and as their superhero alternate identity. It starts off normal with Apogee and the Thrilling Three. With Bladestone as well, being a speedster, I refuse to believe that her powers are fire manipulation because if she speaks that fast, she's a speedster, generating enough speed to make it look like her powers are fire, you know? But, you know, the files say otherwise, but that's my own headcanon. And so forth and so forth. But before going on to the rest of the heroes, we also get to see the focus of their team. Each of these heroes have a team that they are a part of. There are notes on their leaders, their tactics, what they're most effective at, their base of operations, and some personal notes from headquarters. All of these notes are extremely unique, like how Beta Force was formed by the NSA as a part of Blaze Stone's rehabilitation, or how in the Phantasmic's Gazerbeam was a former member but ended up leaving because him and Everseer never saw eye to eye. I see what you did there. That adds an additional layer to each of their factions, as then again, Gazerbeam's audio log, we find out how his powers work and why that was the case.
I think the question I get asked the most is what happened with the Thrilling 3. It was working fine for me. I have no problem working in groups. I think we were very successful. I think at times we may have been among the best, but a team is just that, a team. And then any time you take individuals and you put them in a contained environment, they tend to react like oil and water sometimes, or peanut butter and chocolate. Although peanut butter and chocolate does taste good together, so that's actually a bad example. I quite enjoy that. I think the thing I get asked about the most, of course, is my laser vision. People tend to think it's a real picnic to have eyes that shoot lasers, but believe it or not, it's had its disadvantages. If I look at anything too intently, it tends to burst into flames, which can be a real pickle in a relationship scenario. When you're conversing with somebody, a normal person would be able to look them square in the eye. I avert my gaze, which is often interpreted as disinterest, or rather daft or stupid, which couldn't be farther from the truth. I'm a man of culture, a man of passion, and I would say a man of humor, which is not widely known. On the outside, I appear calm and cool, perhaps even collected, but on the inside, I'm guffawing away on the steamship of hilarity. I'm not sure if that made very much sense.
Gazerbeam, despite the file, was actually one of the realest heroes out there. With deleted scenes from the movie surfacing, a memorial was held in the memory of the fallen heroes. And Gazerbeam was the center of it all. Mr. Incredible himself gave the speech on how Gazerbeam was an outcast before he was a super. When he did get talked into becoming a super eventually, he was one of the best. A gosh darn good one. On the topic of the memorial, at the end of that scene, they begin to mention all of the names of the heroes that were on file. These heroes in these files sounds a lot more human than you think. Flawed, but human. Now you have to remember that these aren't perfect people. They're simply people that were given powers either at birth or they were awakened later on in their life. We need to consider that these aren't the perfect people to have these powers. But when we dig through these files, even further down the line, we start to get into the not so heroic supers. And this is where my point stands, where not all supers deserve their powers. Some using their powers for their own gain to just being outright assholes. We start to go down this rabbit hole with the one tried and true sexual offender, Gamma Jack. I won't get too into his character, just listen to the file.
There's always going to be a lot of collateral damage. There's lots of villains, and there's lots of villainous deeds going on at any given time. Part of my job is to prioritize which villains I'm going to combat. So I take a look around, I see if there's any good-looking women who need to be rescued immediately, and then I sort of start from there and work my way down the list. If you've got Tubby Joe Schmo over there with a laser pointed at his head, and he might have to wait in line a little while. Yeah, I've fought my fair share of villains, and they all have their own unique challenges. You know, they got their zombie monkeys and their giant laser robots and their super aquatic ninja pygmies. But I tell you, once in a while, the real kicker is I get these dames, man, these dame villains, and they got the curves and the hair and the big eyes, and boy, those ones, they're really, really hard to kill. You know, especially the ones that they come up and, you know, and they're looking at you and you're looking at them and you feel that simpatico, you know, like she's digging you and you're digging her, digging you, and boy, you really got to take a jog around the block real quick and, you know, sort of get your concentration back, compose yourself, because, you know, you can't get distracted by these sort of thoughts when you're going up against a super villain. That's one of the hard parts of the jobs, you know, when you come across a dame who's really something to look at, and you just gotta let her have it, because she's a villain. Yeah, those are the bad days.
Not only does Jack choose who to save first by how attractive they are, he believes that supers are superior to normal people. He believes the normal humans are like ants and should be worshipping superpowered beings like merciful gods. Yes, I know what you're thinking. It is exactly like that one dude in another show that is definitely not family friendly. Not at all. And there's another case of this becoming a thing that is a lot similar to the show that I previously mentioned. There is a similar character down the line that acts a lot like another character from another show.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Hypershock. So I have seismic wave generation, which is the ability to create earthquake-like disruptions in the ground to stop the bad guys with my dual seismic amplification hammers on one on each hand. No, I did not buy them at the hardware store, haha. Fly around with my vector thrust fusion rocket rucksack getting from place to place, and my powers enter effectual and non-solid materials, but if I can get a 6.0 on the Richter scale, I can generally stop whoever's out there and... We gotta talk about this. Hang on. Hey, Irv. Hey. Where's Irv? Coffee. Yes, hello. I need some coffee. Very nice. No, I don't want tea. I want coffee, and put some aspirin in it or something. How about coffee made from aspirin? You know, you people, you just don't do your homework. And look at this. What is this? Cheap. Spend a little money on your gear if you're going to have a super in here, okay? And you, who are you? You know, I could be out solving crime at the very least. We're solving this hangover. Ow! Oh.
Hypershock is noted to have a bad temper, easily getting frustrated in the littlest things. In the file, we can hear just how rowdy this super can get. Don't get me wrong, a hangover isn't exactly a walk in the park either, but having the ability to generate seismic waves at will and make earthquakes just for shits and giggles isn't exactly a power to be taken lightly. Hypershock sounds like a drunkard who gained powers because of a bet he lost, and was forced to take the responsibility of being a superhero. These kinds of powers should not be in the hands of people who simply volunteered. Now, I know in this universe they're born with it, but we also have to consider if they are born with their powers, we need to consider the environment they grow up in. The people you surround yourself with can have a massive influence on you if it wasn't obvious enough. If we go by the X-Men logic of these supers being mutants, having their powers activate at a specific age when their X chromosome finally wakes up, this means they will have to go through a variety of powers. This is seen in the end of The Incredibles 1 and in the DVD special Jack Jack Attacks. Jack Jack is seen cycling through a variety of powers, as again, he is a baby. In The Incredibles 2, we get to see more of these powers come to light in the final boss battle and in the DVD special again, Auntie Edna. Now, why do I bring the baby up of all things? Notice how Jack Jack had different powers when the situation changed. Adapting to a specific situation where a different power is needed. the environment the family was in influenced the powers that Jack showcases. This tells me that a specific age, say about Dash's age or maybe Violet's, your body selects a power depending on the situation you're frequently in. In Violet's case, her powers were sealed during puberty, turning herself invisible because, puberty and you create force fields at will because of her going through the phase in her life where she pushes people away or protecting herself from the outside forces. This is backed up by another tape during Psychwave's audio recording.
So in high school, that's when I realized I had the ability to possess other people, to send psychic waves to other people to get them to do things that I really wanted them to do. I had a crush on the quarterback of the football team who was also my best friend's boyfriend. I psych-waved him into asking me to the homecoming dance and breaking up with Shelley. And the more I practiced it, the shorter amount of time it took. I could just sort of look at someone or look at a picture or see them passing by and think this thought or this action or whatever, and it would just happen. Never really used it to harm people, except for all those girls I made the guys break up with because I wanted to date them. Kind of freaky, actually.
Having these powers manifest at a specific time where, say, a strong feeling is felt, or if the situation is dire enough, the environment these supers are put in or put themselves in greatly affects who they are as a person and what their powers will be. Now, if you're someone who flunked high school and never graduated, you'd be a thunderhead. If you're someone who's cool, calm, and collected, then you're the GOAT Frozone. And if you're a focused individual, say, a lawyer that could stare daggers into the opposing team, then you're my GOAT, the wasted potential of a spin-off show, Gazerbeam. But if you're someone who's extremely insecure about absolutely everything and despises everything about his secret identity, then you just might be a universal man.
Most superheroes have the alter ego so they can have the so-called normal life. Me, I choose not to. I don't see why I get so much flack for not having an alter ego. I mean, it's supposed to be a secret. No one's supposed to know. So what's the point? So if I take a girl on a date, I'm wearing the costume, sure. They like to bask in the awe of Universal Man. But when we're alone, with the candlelight music and the pericomo and the fragrant oils and things of this nature, then they come to me and they say, "Oh, Universal Man, maybe you take off the mask. Maybe we can see who's underneath." There's no one underneath. They would be horrified if I asked them to take off their face. This is what Universal Man wears. This is me. Other than being indestructible because of my high density, I am just like you. And that's when the breakup starts, with the late-night recriminations and the slamming of the doors and the shattering bottles and the things of this nature and the redistribution of the assets and the "it's not me, it's you, it's not you, it's me." But in Universal Man's experience, it's always you.
Now, I could be wrong, and Jack could be a special case where he can cycle through a specific amount of powers when the situation calls for it. He's basically the Darwin of the Incredibles universe, because it was said in The Incredibles 2 that this case of super has not been seen yet by Madame Edna Mode. But I could still have a point that Jack isn't the only baby that has this kind of outburst in powers. Because, let's face it, Edna hasn't met the entire race of supers, so there's a high possibility that there are other cases like Jack where they have to go through a specific power before they settle on a specific one. But, I could be wrong, or I could be right, but let me know down in the comments what you think about this theory. The NSA tapes highlight the best and the absolute worst of the supers. The best being their willingness to do good and help people in need. And that's where the good parts stop. The Incredibles universe is an extremely dark universe, more than you remember it. Sure, the soundtrack is amazing and the colors and so bright they can compare to a Superman movie. But when it comes to sending a message, that under all these colors, under all the mood that the movie sets, underneath is a gritty reality where supers are made illegal for a reason. Not just because Mr. Incredible is incredibly reckless in his saves, but because sometimes not everyone with powers deserves to be a hero. And that's what I believe Syndrome was trying to tell us all those years ago.
Everyone can be super. And when everyone's super, no one will be.
But that's all I got for you in today's episode. What are your thoughts? Are the heroes really what they claim to be? Or was Syndrome another Lex Luthor, but this time he was actually right about something? Let me know down in the comments. Now, I don't know what it is with The Incredibles trending almost every single year by July specifically, but I just think that it's the month of supers, you get what I mean? But if you enjoyed, leaving a like would be awesome as it gets the video out there, and subscribing will help the channel grow as we are growers and not showers. That's all from your boy. I hope you have a wonderful day, and in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.